Hello and welcome to this three-part series on BMC application visibility with Docker containers. This is the third video in our series. In the second video, we had loaded our application visibility software onto a volume and put it into a container. Now we're able to take that container and we're going to use it in an application. In this video, we'll load Tomcat, we'll run a script to connect the container to the volume, and then we'll run application visibility. So let's start off by creating a Docker Tomcat container. First, we'll need to download Tomcat from the website, and then we'll also load Java from the Oracle site. We'll log on to our CentOS system, and we'll make a directory for our new Tomcat container. And in there, we'll put Apache software and Java development kit. Next, we'll create a Docker file that'll allow us to build our container image. The process that we'll use to build our Docker file for our Docker container will be the same that we used in the second part of our video series. We'll create a Docker file, we'll add our components like CentOS that we need, we're going to install our specific software we need in the container, and then we'll go down and we'll also load our Java development kit. As we walk through this process, you'll see that it creates a work directory, unpacks the tar file, and then executes the script in the environment. Same thing with the Tomcat environment. It will unpack the application tar file that we brought down from the website and run the install script for that. Now I'm going to install NetTools in this Docker file. This allows us to have utilities like ifconfig and netstat that we can use later on. I'm also going to change the exposed port number so it's appropriate for our Tomcat installation. Next, we'll go to build the Docker file by using docker build -t, give it the name of the new container, and call it the latest version. Tell it to build in this current directory and execute. As it steps through the scripts, this will take several seconds to go through, but you can watch step by step and see how it unpacks the specific tarballs and then runs the scripts. At the end, it produces a build that we can look at in our list. And then you can see our newly built Docker container. The next step is going to be to create a Docker run script as we did in the second video. This time we'll go into it in a bit more detail though. First, you want to go ahead and go back to your session and create a file called Docker run. And in there, what we'll do is we'll put this script in that will allow you to run Docker, attaching to the standard in. And then we're going to add a host. This allows me to change the host for the destination of application visibility. Now I mount the application visibility directory. I add in an environment variable that executes our Java agent option. This allows me to run Java instrumentation when we run. And then we give it a name and a host. And then we tell it to use our image. And then we execute the Catalina startup script, which will run our Tomcat server every time we execute this container. What we'll do then is we'll save this file and then we'll execute it. And now we have a running Docker container with our Tomcat. Now we can log on to our new container by using docker exec-it, and the name of our container. We can either use the name or the actual container ID, and then bash. That will bring us into a prompt, and then we can start to do things like look at the IP address that we're running under. And again, as I execute this in a swarm, it's going to adopt new IP addresses and new names even as well, so I can anonymize the Docker names. If I look at the netstat, I can see the processes that are attaching, and I can see I've called back to my server on port 8100. I also see my Java agent is running as expected if I look at the processor status. So it looks like everything is running the way it should be. So the next thing I'd like to do is go up and bring up a browser and then test our new Tomcat server out. So I'll go to that IP address that I discovered in our container and go to port 8080, and sure enough, here's our Tomcat server. Let me exercise this a little bit so that it'll exercise also the Java agent and send traces back to our Application Visibility Manager server. Matter of fact, I even have a reload script here that I'll just let it run repeatedly so I can continually gain data from this. Then what I'd like to do is go back to the TrueSight presentation server, and now I can actually go look at the application as it's being discovered. Since now we've loaded the agent, I can actually manipulate the agent itself here at the TrueSight server. I don't need to go back to the Docker container anymore. So if I want to change the policy or make it deeper or change the way we're collecting the data, I could just apply the agent here in the TrueSight presentation server. Once it starts to collect the data, in this case I've turned it on to max, so I collect every transaction that's going across. Here it shows up in our application list, and I can now drill down and look at all the transaction and business traces. Well, hopefully this series has given you a better understanding about application visibility and Docker containers.